The fitness tracking industry is currently worth $54 billion and is expected to grow to $230 billion in 2031. Fitness trackers have been a sort of revolution, being able to turn your fitness into easily measurable data. They keep you constantly up to date with your health metrics and can give someone the guidance they need to adjust their current behavior to be healthier. Some of these devices can directly communicate to users when they detect a potential seizure and could even lower health insurance prices for people who meet certain health standards. It sounds too good to be true, and in many cases it is. Without considering the negative health effects they can have on people, these trackers also involve a very sinister side. But before covering any of that, we first need to understand why people get so addicted to them in the first place. Companies creating these trackers are very intelligent and know very well how the human mind works. They understand that this life is all we have and that health matters a lot to us, since it heavily determines not only the quantity but also the quality of our lives. So when we're presented with a device that can easily quantify our health in numbers, we're automatically drawn to these things, and marketers very much like to play on this. Many use stories describing how it saves people's lives and put those stories on display as for why you should buy their product. They may try to convince you that you might miss out on a specific heart palpitation if you don't own it. It is a very manipulative marketing strategy, which can lead people into buying a product they never needed in the first place. And due to a lack of regulations in the industry, companies can make very big claims about their products, even though this may not reflect the reality of it. Combined with free influencer marketing who jump on new technologies to review them, health trackers like these became extremely common in our society. And once people own the device, that is when the real hook comes. Most of these trackers apply something we call gamification, which is when typical elements of gaming, like a leaderboard, competition against others, and so on, get applied to other parts of life, and is very often used as a marketing strategy to keep engagement higher with a product or service. Health trackers are able to apply this psychology to their apps due to our health metrics being easily quantifiable. For example, since they can easily turn our health into data, they can also help us set new goals to achieve, put a leaderboard where people get compared, creating competition amongst users, add in a sense of community, and create an illusion of status by adding levels and medals to earn. Instead of leveling up in a video game, you can get that same feeling by leveling up your health. And once this device has been used for long enough, we are faced with something known as the sunk cost fallacy, which states that once we've invested enough, be it financially or in time, into something, we have a lot of trouble leaving it behind, even though it might be better for us. At this point, it may have become natural for you to check your tracker quite often, knowing the addictive nature of it, and you've had to invest money to buy it, so it can become this mental battle of whether you should keep it or not. Add on to this a sense of community that you'll likely lose if you had to quit. Think about it. Maybe a friend of yours introduced you to this device and told you how useful it was. Or maybe it came from someone you look up to, like a certain influencer. Maybe you've built a community and conversation around this device. Just like people hang out together for the sole purpose of partying every weekend without having any other interest in common outside of that. It is our primal instinct to stay connected to the tribe, which makes it very hard to leave, even though it might again be better for us. Now, this may not seem that bad to you. How could being addicted to my health be such a bad thing? Well, it's when you look deeper at the industry of health tracking that things can become very sinister. As I previously mentioned, the health tracking industry isn't very regulated, which also applies to the laws surrounding privacy. See, this is what a tracker does. It tracks you, and more importantly, this device tracks your health at constant times. These watches know everything about you. They know your sleeping habits, morning routine, where you go during the day, and so on. Now, tracking information about you is already done at all times through other technologies, but it never includes your health data. And since the industry isn't very regulated, health information that would otherwise stay private with traditional healthcare can now be sold to about anyone because of a lack of law surrounding them, and that can be very valuable to data collectors. Take for example health insurance companies, which could possibly deny you or heavily increase the price based on the data of your Apple Watch, or send you targeted advertising playing into your emotions and fearmonger you into buying their products. Now, if that still seems fine to you, I could understand. But this story can become much more scary when you see what's happening in other countries. Without wanting to sound like a conspiracist, countries like China have systems implemented where your data is used to totally control you, and this might come in some shape or form in our Western countries as well in the next decade. The point I'm trying to make is that your data can be very valuable and you should treat it that way and not give it out for free to just anyone. But besides that, these trackers can have some pretty severe health consequences on their users. In May 2020, a study was conducted to analyze how our perception of sleep performance would affect us throughout the day. They found that if you told a patient that they slept about 5 hours when they really slept 8, they would automatically perform worse. On the other hand, if a patient slept 5 hours but was told they slept 8, they would perform much better. If you add on top our tendency to focus on the negative rather than the positive, as we have evolved to do, the only real question then becomes, how much do these devices affect our performance throughout the day? It's very easy to believe you can ignore your bad sleep stats, when in reality they do affect our subconscious a lot. And with our tendency to focus on the negative rather than the positive, green stats will only impact us positively for a short while, whilst orange or red statistics can affect us for the rest of the day. We have to be careful because these devices do track our physical health, but they forget to acknowledge that our health is divided into many more metrics such as our mental, emotional, social and spiritual health. And if those are not in check, but our physical health is, are we truly healthy or are we pretending to be because it's easier to put it in numbers? We cannot forget that the other parts of our health matter too, and if this device improves our physical health but damages our mental health in the process, I don't consider any progress to be made. When you consider the addictive side of them, where some people develop that obsessive behavior of checking their stats constantly throughout the day, even thinking about it when they're not viewing them, they will drain you mentally and affect your mental health negatively. My advice would be to simply beware of how those devices make you feel and analyze your thoughts and emotions rationally. And based on that, make a decision whether they are worth it or not. Now, this is mainly the case for sleep trackers. On the other hand, general health trackers such as the Apple Watch have a few problems themselves. These are health devices which are not associated with more traditional healthcare and thus don't have the same regulations around them. These devices work with standardized metrics, meaning that they have a set of metrics which they consider to be healthy and will be healthy for the majority of people, and anything outside those numbers is considered unhealthy. Based on the individual, you may need different stats to be healthy, and if those stats happen to be outside of the normal range, you'll be considered unhealthy by the machine, which can lead to wrong recommendations and misdiagnosis. Besides this, we could outline other problems such as their inaccuracy when tracking calories, or people's inability to work out when they don't have a tracker on. This is actually a real problem people face. Simply because something isn't tracked doesn't mean it doesn't count. We have come to a point where people became so addicted to technology that we have lost the essence of what health is. We reduced our health to a set of numbers. It is much more than reaching 10,000 steps a day, heart rate variability and sleep quality. What happened to the times when we went out for a walk just for the sake of it? What happened to the pure enjoyment of simply going into the gym to just move and feel healthy and capable instead of having to track everything down to the millimeter? What happened to eating healthy because we wanted to feel good and not because it would look better on our FitnessPal? We shouldn't let a piece of technology determine whether we're healthy or not, or whether we have recovered well. We are definitely facing problems with these devices, and the smarter move would likely be to stop and come back to a more natural way of living. But then comes the question, how do we stop? See, for many people that question might seem irrelevant, but to others they're so addicted to the feeling of viewing their stats that the thought of stopping doesn't even cross their minds. Now you could approach this twofold. Either you stop cold turkey, meaning you go through a detox phase, or you slowly stop and use a couple tactics to stop you from checking them. This could be a time blocker, removing the app from the homepage, removing notifications, and so on. You could even have dedicated periods of time where any device is removed and then put it back on, or simply use a tracker whenever you try a new protocol or lifestyle factor. If you are in fact addicted and completely stop, you will begin to realize how much mental energy and space you suddenly save. In the end, it all comes down to you, whether you feel if those impact you negatively and if the consequences are worth it or not. I do not have any problem with you using a tracker. I like my sleep tracker myself. Just make sure it stays something to supplement your life positively rather than becoming too much part of your identity.